Hi, I'm Orianna. Welcome to my home where I'm renovating. Come on in. So we're looking to spend around 30 to 40,000 on renovating this house. We've started with the bathroom because if you look up, it was leaking. So that was the first room and I'll take you up there to see. Because the bathroom needed doing first, we decided to just do all the upstairs and then work our way down, which is what our builder told us is the best thing to do anyway. So with the bathroom, we spent around £5,000. The most expensive part of that was obviously labour. We found a really good guy that was recommended by a friend who's an electrician. So yeah, definitely go by word of mouth, whoever you've told is good. This was actually a steal. This was free. Things cost a lot of money apparently, but a friend who's a builder, it's damaged and he couldn't use it. So he was like, he's dumping it. Do we want it? We said yes. My favourite part of this bathroom is the gold hardware. As you can see, I'm a gold jewellery person and we've got gold taps, we've got a gold waterfall shower head, gold handles, just gold everything. I am living my best life, but it's actually so hard to clean gold hardware. So if you're looking to get it for the aesthetic, I recommend, but just be very aware that it won't be gold for long. There will be like black tarnish on it where you've over cleaned it and yet you're constantly drying it to try and keep it pristine. We were gonna get a charger unit for a shaver charging unit. And our builder was like, is that for a toothbrush? And we were like, yeah. And he was like, you know, you can just get toothbrush chargers that are like floating. So your brush is always charged and it's genius. And it was the best like £30 I've ever spent. So this is currently my dressing room / office. Eventually the front room downstairs will be our office, but for now this is making do and we just get ready here. So this room costs £2,000 to do. Things like that wardrobe and this desk and this bookcase I had already actually in my flat that I lived in previously. So where I could upcycle things, I did. Like for example, I just bought new door fronts and new handles for these cupboards so they fit in with the kind of theme I want, because in my flat I had all mirrored cupboard doors, which is not the look I was going for here. And so we had one cupboard already and then we bought another secondary one, all from IKEA. I think it cost like £400. It's really cheap. And then I'm a big TK Maxx fan, so things like this footstool, the lamp, those are from TK Maxx and they're really expensive. You're talking like £100 each, when footstools can cost like easily £500. But yeah, again, the bulk cost in this room was labour. We got the ceiling replastered and we tried to save money by skimming the plaster ourselves in this room, and my other half will tell you it was not worth the money saved because it took him ages, his wrists were sore, and the finish wasn't as good as if we'd spent that £500 more it would have cost to just get it skimmed professionally.
Planning a renovation project like Orianna can be a costly adventure. With HyperJar, you can set up a jar for each room and track their individual budgets for labour and materials as you transform from top to bottom. And if there are particular shops you would like to purchase your new furnishings from, HyperJar partners with favourite brands to offer unique discounts and rewards, helping you save even more.
The last room we renovated is the bedroom, and I'll show you that right now. This is the most recent room and we were sleeping off the kitchen before. It was cold, it was always noisy to hear people taking the bins out, so it's like really luxurious just to actually have a bedroom, which you take for granted when you have one already. This cost us £5,000 to do. Again, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but as per usual, labour was the most expensive part. We had like all the ceilings and all the walls replastered. We had a lot of the plaster taken down because it was cracking. And we had the windows like resealed in because there was a lot of mold where it wasn't sealed properly from moisture getting in. And then things like furnishing, I like a bargain. So like things like the curtains again were from IKEA, really inexpensive. The bedside tables I got from Wayfair, they were like £150 each, which for bedside tables is quite inexpensive, it's quite affordable. The light was from IKEA. The bed was probably the most expensive item. It was £500 for the bed. But I think that's where you want to kind of spend your money, on these kind of bigger items that you're not really going to ever switch out. So when we were doing this room, we didn't know that things like the skirting and the door over here would be included in the cost. So that was a really nice surprise, that we saved like an extra £500 because of all those little items that he'd actually included but not like written down in his quote. So that was a great surprise. So now I'll show you the rest of the house. Come downstairs with me. It's what we've got to do left next year and the year after. It still needs a lot of work, but hopefully it will come out as nice as the rest of the house. So all of this plaster needs to be knocked down and redone. It's all, as you can see, like it's all crumbling away. So this is the kitchen we're going into now, and we will be knocking through that wall and making it a giant kitchen diner with, you know, doors onto the garden. All these will be replaced. We'll have a long kitchen wall and an island and all that kind of good stuff. But this will be done last because kitchens just cost so much money. It's an investment. So we want to wait and save up as much money as possible to get it done right, instead of rush it and not have it done to how we want. This over here is going to be the living room eventually. At the moment it's being used as a dining room. We're going to knock through all of this. We're going to have a media wall put in. We're going to replace the stairs, maybe have like some storage under there because there's not much storage in this house. Obviously insulate the place, it's freezing because there's no insulation as a Victorian home. And our builder estimates that this will cost 5k plus maybe £1,000 to £2,000 for the new staircase. Then let me show you into the front room, which will get done at the same time as this room because our builder said that will be cheaper than doing it separately and having, you know, plasterers called out twice. So we're going to do it all in one go. So this is the front room, which we started at, and this eventually will be our office and spare room. This will be the third bedroom for guests. And we plan to put the wall back up. This ceiling needs to come down because obviously it's had a major leak, so it needs to come down, be replastered. All of the plaster's like crumbling off the walls in this room, so it just, yeah, all round replaster and flooring put in and a new stud wall put up, and that will cost around 5k, we've been told. Materials could go up, they could go down by then, so it might be less, it might be more, but that's the kind of goal we're working towards. So in total, the downstairs should cost around 30 to 40,000, and upstairs has already totaled 12k. Now I'm just going to talk you through the master budget plan for my renovation. So the bathroom we estimated would cost 3k. In the end, because of costs going up, it actually costs around £5,000. The dressing room cost £2,000. The bedroom, it's slightly over budget. We estimated it cost £3,000, but because we wanted to buy a new fancy bed, which we totally didn't need, it's costing more like £4,000. Then the next rooms we've got to save is the living room, which we're currently in, and the dining room next door. We were going to do it each room at a time so that it's just easier to save in terms of goal for one room. But when we talked to our builder, he said it's more cost efficient to get the plaster in to do all of it in one go. So we're going to save for all of it in one go. So it should cost around 5k for each of those rooms, not including a new staircase. So we need to talk separately to the people who make staircases and find out how much that costs. We think it'll be around 2,000 from talking to other people who've had that work done. We're then gonna have our kitchen dining room done, which should cost around £20,000. For that, we want to save all the money, but we might pay for the labour in cash and then actually use finance to pay for the kitchen, just to ensure we have extra cash in our bank accounts, because it'll be in 2024, around the same time as our wedding. It might be just safer to have that cash in our bank accounts and put the kitchen on a 0% APR credit card and have that just being paid off monthly, just in case any hiccups or unexpected costs come up with the wedding. We've got that cash there in our bank account, and then we could always pay it off straight after the wedding, pay off the kitchen account. Then I've got a tab called to do later, and we've not even started checking costs for that because it just feels like a whole world away. But the exterior of the house, which it doesn't look pretty in the garden. Yeah, we've got listed key tasks, but no target cost yet on that, because 3 years when you're doing a reno feels like a lifetime. Now I'm going to talk you through my budget and how our reno has impacted that, as well as our wedding, which is coming up in 2024. So from our salaries each month, we both save, me and my other half, we save 50% of that and put it into a joint account. That pays for the things you really need, like your mortgage, your bills, food shop, things like that is all covered with our 50% income each. From our joint account, our mortgage is paid, which is £1,400 a month. Our bills are paid, which are around £300 to £400 a month. And our food shop is paid, which it varies how much we eat out that month, but it's usually about £100 to £200 a month. Just because I try and be really smart and mix and match as many recipes as possible. So I try to keep the food shop down. And then the rest of my money that I get, £500 of that goes straight into savings. As soon as my money come in, I save it and then I spend after. Then about £400 of what is left I spend for me. That could be on some clothes, going out with friends. We have this policy where we don't judge what the other person's spending as long as we've saved first. Because we've saved that £500 a month each, the £400 is there to spend without judgment. So having a second home and getting married obviously comes with sacrifices. The main one being that we had to push our wedding back to 2024. We got engaged in 2021. Ideally, like many of our friends, you would have had a 1 or 2 year engagement. That just simply wasn't possible when we were trying to figure out, how to stretch those numbers from our monthly saving. It just would have been actually quite stressful trying to do them both within a year. So we have decided to have a long engagement. With all the madness of renovating a property and getting married at the same time as a cost of living crisis, sometimes your wage doesn't stretch as far as you'd like. There's only so much budgeting you can do before you realise you actually just need to earn more money. So that is what I did. I set out this year, I gave myself a year to find another job. And the reason I gave myself so long is because I knew I needed something that bumped my salary by more than 10%, because that's what inflation's at. So I really started looking for something that would pay me more to cover the potential rise in mortgage rates, the rising energy costs, the rise in food costs, at the same time as planning for all these life events. And my partner as well, he took on more weekend work. So sometimes taking up a new job is actually the only way to boost your income significantly enough to cover all these expenses. So I think of myself as someone that's quite savvy when it comes to money. As well as knowing what comes in and out, I just don't like to waste it on things that I know I can do at a lower cost. For example, if I'm going out for drinks with friends, I have my own house. It'd be much cheaper for me to just buy a bottle of champagne even, or rosé, than go out and buy drinks. So I often invite my friends here for pre-drinks. And then when you're pre-drinking, you're less likely to drink as much when you go out. And also, instead of getting an Uber out or a taxi out, I can just hop on the train. It's a lot longer and it's a lot less luxurious. And there comes a time in your life when you're like, I'm earning X amount of money, I can get an Uber, which a lot of my friends do, not to shame them. But personally, I'm not spending £40 on an Uber closer into London when I could spend £10 on a train. And it actually takes about the same amount of time. It's really like you're saving 5-10 minutes, and if there's traffic, actually you're losing time in the cab. Other things I do, I like to have a wish list of clothes I want to buy, even things like home items I need, so that I don't just impulse buy things that I don't need. And I used to be that person that, a new season would come and I'd buy clothes, and then 2 years later I'd throw them away because they're not on trend anymore, or they just don't fit in with my personal style. So I very much know now what kind of things I like, style-wise for the house and fashion-wise, and I only buy things that fit in with that, and I have a wish list specifically of items that I need.
Cutting back on spending can be achieved with small lifestyle changes. To aid this, you can use HyperJar to create an only list and restrict spending from certain jars. So, if you want to spend less on entertainment or clothes, you can set your limits. If you want to restrict how you spend money on traveling to town, you can restrict spending your money with certain companies and brands like Uber from your jars as well. Think of your owning list as a gateway to the sensible time to spend the wish list.
So now I'm going to answer your most common questions when it comes to renovating a home. Question 1. How do you manage costs during a house renovation? You figure out before how much it's going to cost to do that room, so then you can budget according to that cost, so there's no surprise things. That, can really change from 1 month to the next, depending on supply chain issues or whatever. So it's just a matter of talking to a builder, getting him in, asking him a rough estimate of how much costs are. And then if you've got that already, great. If you don't, you need to obviously wait a few months and then bring him back in when you actually do have that money, because it could have actually gone up significantly from when you last spoke to him. And then between those 2 meetings with your builder, you can always look at if you need a bathtub, how much bathtubs cost, that shouldn't change too much. So that's how I think you manage costs during renovation, is forward planning. How do you know you are financially ready to move houses and pursue a renovation project? So for me personally, we had a flat before, so we had to wait until either we wanted to sell it or we had paid off 25% equity. We waited until we paid off 25% equity to then buy our current house. The other things is obviously we had to make sure that our salaries matched up what we wanted to buy house-wise, because you need to have 5 times your salary in terms of your mortgage. So, if our salary is 20,000 each and we wanted a house of 400,000, that's just not going to add up. So we had to weigh and strategically plan our job moves so that our salaries aligned with the kind of property we wanted. And then it's also figuring out, are you overstretching yourself? Have I got like a fuck up fund? Have I got the money that if something goes wrong that I can afford this house? Current given situation with the interest rates raising really shows that. So if it goes up and interest rates are 5%, can I still afford that property? So we kind of did numbers and we were good and we went ahead with it, but it did take it was 2 years in the making actually. How are you funding your renovation? Saving money, working hard. My other half right now is laying bricks in the -degrees weather because he's working on weekends, because every penny counts when you're renovating. And I took up extra freelance work, which is now being banned by my new employer. So, but I got a better paying job to, help fund the renovation so we can get the work done quicker. So yeah, I took on more work, my other half took on more work, and that's how we're slowly funding it. How have you been able to save for the wedding and other things while renovating your house? Again, work hard, play hard. We've been, just saving on the side, squirreling away money. Birthday, Christmas, we're gonna ask for money towards a wedding. I think what we're gonna start doing as well is start putting £100 a month between now and the wedding for the honeymoon, because that's something that I didn't actually factor in. And I was like, oh wait, that's actually quite a significant cost to weigh up when you're doing the wedding budget. Until the other day, I was just working out the money for the wedding, not the actual honeymoon. So just saving month by month. We worked out that it was £200 a month for 2 years to save for the wedding. So that's what we're doing. How did you make buying a second home work? We saved really hard until we had paid off the equity in our flat in order to buy a second home. We took up extra work. At one point I was doing 7-day work, working even retail on the weekends if I couldn't get freelance journalism work. My other half works as a bricklayer on the weekends, and during the week he's actually a project manager in telecoms, which is complete other world. So we just worked really hard, which I know is easy to say because I've got an office job, which gives me the privilege to be able to then take on extra job work on the side, because we have 9 to 5 jobs. But that's how we did it, is we took on extra work. What's the best way to pay for renovation works? I think you never know what's going to happen financially, so it's always best to have cash in your bank and pay for it. I think you could always then put it on loan and get a 0% APR credit card to pay it off. But it's just, with the way interest rates are going, it's so risky taking out debt that you don't actually know you can afford. Whereas if you've got that cash in your bank account plus an emergency fund, you're kind of good to spend that money and you have it, it's yours. And then always have I say 6 months salary or at least 3 months salary saved aside, and don't touch that just in case shit hits the fan.
Just as Orianna recommends, it is good to save as much as you can and always be prepared for emergencies. HyperJar makes it easy to save money all in one place and have a safety net in place. And whenever those unexpected renovation mishaps do come along the way, you can pay out directly from your jar and replenish it after.
How do you know when you've found a house that is worth renovating? This is such a good question. So for me with this house, it was one of those streets where houses only come up on this street once every 15, 20 years or something mad. I wanted to live really close to the station and also near the river. So I'm bang on about 400 meters away from both. So that really gave me 2 roads to buy off. The other factor is, as well as area, if you want to look at specific area, that makes you know that it's worth buying the house, even if it's that little bit more, you always want to live there. The other factor is floor plan. I love the floor plan, it's a good size, it's a good layout. I would have hated to have a thin galley kitchen, whereas we're gonna have to extend the kitchen, but it's actually a decent width. and length. And once we knock the wall down, it'll be big. So just looking at the floor plan, I knew there was a lot we could do with this place to make it, you know, a lot bigger and work well for us. So, and yeah, if it's in bad condition and it's the same value as a property on your street that is in good condition, you know you're getting a good bargain. Is there any truth to saying buy the worst house in the best neighborhood? Definitely. I mean, obviously you don't want it to be the worst in terms of it's got subsidence and rising damp and things that actually you are not going to be able to fix, or, you know, or it's the worst because it's got a graveyard in the garden. People don't want to live near a graveyard. These are fundamental things that might never actually improve. But if it's just a factor of every other house has been stripped out, replastered and put like nice floors and painted walls in, then yes, definitely. Renovate a cheap house or buy an expensive done up house. So I think it's always better to renovate a cheap house, especially coming from experience. Our flat was actually already done up to a good standard. It was previously let out by someone else when we bought it, and he renovated it literally like a year before. And we paid a premium for that. We paid about $248 for it, whereas our neighbours paid a little bit less for their apartments. But because it's our first home, we knew we didn't want to go into a project. But yeah, we paid a premium for that, and there was things in that property that we didn't necessarily like, that weren't to our taste. The bathroom wasn't to my style, but I wasn't gonna go and rip it out and redo it when I knew it was gonna add value to the property, because that's just a waste of money. Whereas say you buy something that's not done up, you can then do it to your taste buds. So you're not paying a premium for something that's not actually done to your style. And then when you sell it, you make money. Thank you for coming into my home with me and watching my fortunate event. I'm Orianna Rosa, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.